Yeah, have yourself a day. All right, here's a look at the notable Week 8 games. Mac Jones and the Pats visiting Zach Wilson and the Jets. New England's won 12 straight against the Jets. Perhaps that comes to an end. Speaking of streaks, the Eagles have won 9 straight home games against the Steelers. And get this, the Giants-Seahawks game is the only Week 8 game featuring 2 teams with winning records. Yeah, it's true. The Sunday night game takes us to Western New York, where the Packers are double-digit dogs. Aaron Rodgers has never been a double-digit dog in 234 career starts. Devontae Adams, where are you? He's in Vegas. And that's where we also find Vegas insider Todd Fuhrman. Aaron Rodgers, a double-digit dog for the first time in his Hall of Fame career, Todd. Packers have lost 3 in a row. Bills have won 3 in a row coming off a bye. Buffalo 5-0 straight up under Sean McDermott following their bye. You back in the pack with the 11.5, or are you targeting the total of 47.5?
It's awfully tempting, Hakeem, to make a case for Aaron Rodgers, who will go into uncharted territory. You mentioned it, how long he's been in the National Football League, yet never installed as a double-digit underdog. But this Green Bay offense, in my opinion, may be way past the point of being repaired. So for me, when I look at this game, I want to go under the total at 47.5. You mentioned Buffalo and how prolific they've been coming off of the bye. And one of the storylines brewing in Western New York this year has been how good this defense has performed. When you're talking about their ability to get a pass rush led by Von Miller, you see the back end that's solidified despite dealing with a rash of injuries. I think it's going to be rinse and repeat for a Green Bay offense that's really struggled to get out of neutral over the last couple of weeks. Meanwhile, on the other side, this is a Green Bay team that can be run on, and that's not the way Buffalo likes to go about attacking opposing defenses. It's a lot more chuck and duck with Josh Allen under center, but Jair Alexander will be a matchup nightmare for Stephon Diggs. It'll force Allen to utilize some of his secondary weapons. And while I think Buffalo will have success, I'm not sure the big plays will necessarily be there. I think we're talking about points at a premium in Sunday Night Football. I'm going under the total.
Hard to lay the 11.5 points, so I actually like that under as well.
Have to lay 11.5.
You know, it's just a lot of points. The Niners will head to SoFi as 1.5-point favorites versus the Rams. Kyle Shanahan has 7 straight regular season wins over Sean McVay, but the Rams did get the best of the Niners in the NFC Championship game. We don't really like to talk about that because then the Niners came back and held the Rams without a touchdown during the Week 4 win in the Bay Area. Todd, this is always a fun one. What's the play?
You mentioned it, Katie. It's been one-way traffic during the regular season between these two franchises. The problem for 49ers fans is they probably would trade all 7 of those regular season wins for that NFC Championship, all things being equal. But when you look at the dynamic in play for these two teams, I think it's all about defense still. The 49ers could potentially be without the services of Deebo Samuel, who missed practice both on Wednesday and Thursday, dealing with a hamstring injury. And while Christian McCaffrey is a nice piece to add to the offense, we know Deebo is the catalyst for what this team wants to do as far as the downfield passing threat is concerned. Meanwhile, on the other side, when you look at the Rams, the offensive line may be a little bit healthier as center Brian Allen is trending up. He was a key cog that wasn't available during that Week 4 meeting when Matthew Stafford was sacked 7 times. But even with him in the fold, this is a Rams offensive line that's a far cry from the Super Bowl winning edition we saw last year. We're not sure exactly what this Rams backfield will look like. Maybe Kyron Williams takes on a lion's share of the responsibility there, both as a rusher and receiver. But more importantly, it's Cooper Kupp and everybody else. Even with the return of Van Jefferson, I need to see this Rams passing attack get on track. It's been much more methodical, dink and dunk type approach. I'm going to go under the total in the first half. Familiarity breeds contempt, and we'll hope that the defense rules the day for the first 30 minutes.
All right, here's a sentence I didn't think I'd be saying. The only Week 8 game featuring 2 teams with winning records is in Seattle, where the 4-3 Seahawks are hosting the 6-1 Giants. Here are a few other things that might make you say what? Seattle's the only team in the NFC West with a winning record, and Geno Smith has the 3rd best passer rating in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. But Geno's got to take down dual threat Danny and the G-Men. Todd, what's your approach in this game that I didn't see coming?
And I'll go one step further, Hakeem. When you look at Coach of the Year odds, the second favorite on the board right now behind Nick Sirianni, it's Brian Daboll, given what he's been able to accomplish at the helm of Big Blue. And you look at this Giants team, they're 5-0 straight up, and ATS is an underdog. It's got the potential to put Brian Daboll in rarefied air alongside Bill Cowher. But I don't want to go after the side in this matchup because the travel spot doesn't make the Giants that attractive a proposition as a 3-point underdog. Instead, I want to target the total. Now, I know there's some inclement weather potentially in the forecast. It looks like winds could be in that 12 to 15 mile an hour range with some wet stuff coming down. But I think both of these offenses will be able to have success moving the football against their defensive counterparts. You look at this Giants run defense, and it's really been their Achilles heel all season long, despite this hot start. Travis Etienne ripped off big gain after big gain, and his stat line wasn't even as gaudy as it could have been if he hadn't fumbled going in for what could have been a huge score for the Jaguars. Meanwhile, on the other side, this is a Giants offense that traded Kadarius Toney for 2 draft picks earlier today to the Kansas City Chiefs. Basically says that Wan'Dale Robinson will be the key option. He wasn't on the injury report this week, which I think bodes well for a guy that wasn't targeted in the second half. Saquon Barkley will add value in this game, but it may not be as a rusher, but instead as a receiver, knowing the Seahawks are vulnerable against running backs catching balls out of the backfield. I think this total has been a little bit too depressed here. I'm going to go over with the Seahawks and Giants and think that 44.5 is a manageable request for these two underrated offenses.
Let's take a look at the other team coming out of New York as the Jets take on the Patriots. The Pats have won 12 straight versus the Jets. The last time that New York beat New England in regulation, it was 2010 in the AFC divisional round. That said, this year, the Jets own a better record. In fact, a win over New England will cash the over on the Jets' season win total that was just 5.5. Todd, can Gangrene do it?
Pretty incredible. You mentioned that win total, Katie, and it was one of the biggest liabilities for a lot of sports books. People piling into the Jets amid all the optimism about some of the key components that they were able to pick up in the draft. Unfortunately for Jets fans, they're not going to get a complete rookie season with Breece Hall, who suffered that terrible ACL injury last weekend. And I think that's a big problem for a Jets attack that doesn't have that many playmakers, in my opinion. Michael Carter will take over as RB1. We'll see what the usage rate looks like for James Robinson, who was acquired from the Jags. And while the receivers are a little bit underrated, the big problem is that Zach Wilson hasn't been the facilitator and distributor that the Jets would like him to be. New England was embarrassed last time we saw him on Monday Night Football. Losing outright to the Chicago Bears is more than a touchdown favorite. I think this is the kind of get-right game. I like the fact that Bill Belichick got out ahead of it, said Mac Jones was the starting quarterback. You're going to see a steady dose of Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris against this Jets front, potentially setting up play action. And I know Hakeem's favorite line is the trend is your friend. My take on that is the trend is your friend until it's not.
Right.
In this case, it is going to be our friend. I think the Patriots maintain their dominance against Gangrene, at least for one more Sunday. I'm taking the Patriots on the money line.
Knowledge in your mind, money in your pocket. I like that as well. Joe has a good one, too. Watch, wager, and win. It's a good one. And Katie's coming. She's crafting one right now.
Yes,
she's
I'll
coming up with one because you got to workshop it a little bit. All right, now let's get your very best bet to make right now before perhaps any line movement. Todd, what's the game and the number we should get right now?
For me, Hakeem, I'm going to go to a showdown in the NFC South for two teams that suddenly may have aspirations of winning a division championship. I didn't think we could think that was possible early in the year. But here we are with the Falcons and Carolina Panthers, maybe breathing down the neck of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I look at Carolina, and this is a team that has really struggled in the second half of football games, largely because the offense gets them in a hole and the defense starts to break down into the latter portion of the third and early fourth quarter. But you look at some of their defensive metrics, and this is a top 5 unit, especially in the first half. P.J. Walker has helped stabilize the position a bit. And what we saw last weekend on full display against Tampa, there wasn't a need from this offense to force feed Christian McCaffrey. It was DJ Moore that became the beneficiary. The Atlanta Falcons are extremely banged up in the secondary. They're a little bit too one-dimensional for my liking. And when you look at Atlanta, slightly uncharted territory for a team that was undefeated ATS going into their game last weekend against the Bengals. Now we're talking about them laying more than a field goal in this particular spot. I'm not buying it whatsoever, but instead of backing Carolina for the full game plus the 4, I'll attack the Panthers in the first half plus the 3. I think they have a couple of tricks up their sleeve in this matchup, and instead of being a flat spot after upsetting Tampa last week, I think that can serve as a galvanizing impact on a team that may be able to string together back-to-back victories.
All right, let's recap Todd's selections here in Week 8. Packers and Bills, he likes the under of 47.5. Aaron Rodgers, a double-digit dog for the first time in his career. Going to go first half under of 20.5 between the 49ers and Rams as they renew pleasantries. 49ers won in Week 4. Matthew Stafford was sacked 7 times in that game. Giants and Seahawks, the only game between winning teams. Over the total of 44.5, Patriots and Jets. He's taking New England on the money line to continue their win streak against the Jets. They've won 12 in a row. His best bet to make is Carolina and Atlanta. Look, sometimes you don't go after the big games. You try to find the edge, and that's what Todd Fuhrman does. The edge that he's got in this game, Carolina in the first half, plus 3.
Time now for a parlay pick. Todd, you tweeted today that parlays are to sportsbook operators what penny slots are to casinos, but you are the sharpest man in sports, so I know you got a winning ticket for us.
There's no doubt, Katie, when you're betting parlays, it's more for entertainment value than anything else. And I can't reiterate enough that these should be substantially smaller positions for even recreational bettors out there, because these are the things that build sports books. But when you look at a three-teamer that I put together for us today, what could be better than a holy trinity of backup quarterbacks that we're going to go to the window with? In the form of the New Orleans Saints and Andy Dalton, who get the Las Vegas Raiders fresh off a dominant win against the Houston Texans. We've seen teams that have that mini bye playing on Thursday night use that as a jumping off point. And I think New Orleans was significantly better than the scoreline indicated last Thursday against the Arizona Cardinals. Sam Ehlinger will make his starting debut for the Indianapolis Colts. The bottom line here, can he possibly be worse than what we saw from Matt Ryan so far this season? I think his legs add a dimension that Washington will have to contend with here. And last but certainly not least, the game that we talked about, my best position was on Carolina in the first half plus the 3. We'll use Carolina full game money line as the third leg. In P.J. Walker we trust. What could go wrong, ladies and gentlemen, than Andy Dalton, P.J. Walker, and Sam Ehlinger to take us to the promised land?
Also, it's the 3 T's, right, for they went to college. TCU, Texas, and Temple.
What could go wrong?
Let's go.
What could go wrong?
See, I love a good parlay because he's right. Guys like me are the ones that are helping build the fountains.
You know, somebody's got to do it. Todd, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with your plays. Let's go ahead and recap his parlay. The holy trinity of backup quarterbacks. A simple one here, 3 money lines. Saints, Colts, Panthers. Odds to hit plus 840. $25 will win you $210.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.